Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Roblox here. So I'm actually really excited about the video I'm going to make today. We're going to talk some more about a clan boss team. Now, there's a little bit of motivation behind this video. So one of my clan members, I'm going to say his name wrong probably, but just for the sake of making it easy, I'm going to call him Koryax. Okay. So he shared last night his roster in our Discord. Let me pull that up real quick. Asking for a little bit of help on Clan Boss. And so this is his roster. And as I was looking over his roster, I noticed a few things. I was like, oh, he has a Demitha. Cool. He could probably make an unkillable team at some point. And then I was looking, oh, wow, he has Seeker. Hey, that's two pieces of my unkillable team. Okay. Does he have a speed lead? He can farm Eris. Does he have a speed lead? At which point I looked up Deacon and realized Deacon is a speed lead. So I was like, well, he can build my exact team with a weaker speed lead, so he'll need higher speeds, but he can build my team. Um, so then I went into Deadwood Jedi and I looked up a team, and right away I found this team. This is the Ultimate Myth Air with the 3-1 DPS. So it's the exact team that he has because Eris is a farmable champion. For those of you that don't know, really quickly, if you go into campaign, you go to 6, you'll see that Eris drops from stage 6. So you can farm 6 if you want to level. Instead of leveling on 10, 12, 3, you could come in and level at like 6, 3 or 6, 6 or 6, 7 and keep doing it until you get yourself an Eris. Once you have Eris, you can either book her out with regular books or farm more Erises, but she's very, very, very strong in Clan Boss um, for her cleanse and her speed that she brings. She also has kind of a counterattack. It's not officially a counterattack, but if you look at her skills, she counterattacks the attacker when an ally is attacked. So whenever the clan boss takes a turn, she gets to hit him. Now, in my comp, I've done a toxic set. That being said, you may not be able to do that. I just happen to have really good rolls because I need to hit 260 speed. That's pretty high speeds. And the team that we're going to be talking about today has a little bit of even higher speed for Eris. And um, so after looking at his roster and seeing oh hey yeah you have this exact team, so I started kind of looking into it and I was explaining it to him. Now, one difference between my team and this team is that this team has a much higher speed requirement for the DPS and kind of across the board. So if we look at my team real quick, we'll bring him over. So this is my team. It's called the Myth Fu because it uses Fushan as the speed lead instead of Deacon Armstrong, and that kind of reduces the speed requirements, sort of. So my Eris needs to be, actually she pretty much needs to be 263 for affinity friendly. 198, 185 to 198 for the Fushan, 180 to 184 for the Seeker, and 290 to 291 for the Demitha. So a little bit slower here. You can do, but it has to be exactly 288, which is a pain when you're trying to set up your speed tunes. Faster on the Eris at 266. Deacon at 195, basically the same as what my Fushan would need to be. Seeker hard locked at 185, but the DPS needing to be 256 to 258. My DPS only needs to be 168 or 169. So I have a little bit more play in my team and what DPS I would use. The good thing is, one of the problems with my team is that the speeds are a little slow for the DPS. Therefore, I don't like to use a champion that I want to use elsewhere in the game because that's kind of a slow speed at 168, 169. I want a much faster speed out of like some of my really good champions. So I kind of picked a DPS that I didn't really use anywhere else in the game at the time. and was able to put him in and get success out of him. And we'll talk about that here in a second. So I identified off his roster. He had the composition for an unkillable team. Now, couple things. One, if you look back at his roster, which I think, here we go, let me pull it back up. If we look at his roster again real quick, we can see that his Demitha is only 50. His Seeker is only 40. He doesn't even have an Eris yet. His Deacon is 60. And aside from Theodore, maybe lacks a little bit of a good DPS to put into that comp. So he has some work to do. One thing I want to point out is that unkillable is not something that's going to happen overnight. When your account is in this situation, it's going to take you some time to complete the account or to complete the unkillable team. And that's okay. Take your time, build them up one at a time. My recommendation is to always start with your Demitha first. The reason I recommend going with your Demitha first is because she's viable elsewhere in the game. Her A2 brings a pretty strong heal. We look at my Demitha real quick. I actually use, in some cases, I use Demitha without using her A3 and just using her A2. It heals a lot. It heals more than some of my other healing support champions can do. So she increases buffs, which is great, and then decreases the duration of enemy buffs, and heals by 2.5% of the max HP, and a further 2.5 for each turn added or removed from the duration of buffs. So if she increases buffs, you get more healing. If she decreases buffs, you get more healing. Super valuable. Super valuable. And I've used her just for healing. Obviously, she has block damage and continuous heals. If you're up against something that can steal buffs, you don't always want to be using this. But she can buy you quite a few extra turns, whether it's Doom Tower waves or sometimes even bosses. This has proven to be a very valuable tool for me and my account. So I recommend getting Demitha up first because she will be a good support that you can use elsewhere in the game. For the team that we're talking about, she'll be at pretty high speed at 288, so that would make her viable pretty much anywhere in the game. Mine is at 290, and I use her all over the place, even arena, for tag team arena. All right, so now let's get started talking about how we make the team. So this is the main reason I'm making the video. What I want to do is kind of show you guys exactly what you need to do to make the team. So I am on Deadwood Jedi's site. So give me a second here. So if you just type in Deadwood Jedi into Google, right away you'll see that you can go to his main page or you can go to Unkillable. So this is what I would recommend doing. You go to Unkillable. This is a list of all the unkillable teams that they have tested and come up with the exact speeds that make it work. I expect there to be a bunch of additions to this with the new champion, Emic Trunkheart, whose fusion started today. If you don't have any of the champions that we're talking about today, I recommend in a couple days, maybe weeks, coming back and checking to see what Emic Trunkheart builds they have available on. See, here's another potential option for a team that uses Demitha and Deacon, but this one would use High Katoon. Much higher speeds in the 300s here, but it is an option that he could use as well. But anyways, so that you go through all the teams. When you find the team that you want, you click on the team. So we click on the team and this page pops up. And then there's a few notes. One thing about the current team and how Eris works into it is that you do need to have a force DPS to take the stun. We'll talk about true speeds here in a second. And Yeah, so a couple of options there. So once you kind of look over the notes, kind of review them, they'll explain like, oh, you need true speed this, you need this and this. You come down here and then you'll click on go to the calculator. Now for the sake of the video, I'm going to use mine because I can kind of show you exactly how to do the calculator with my numbers. So let's click on the calculator. So you go to the calculator and it takes you to, I didn't realize I had to log in for the calculator. I don't know, but man, okay, I did have an account. I was just like, wait a minute, I'm not sure if I have an account. Okay, cool. So I'm logged in. So right out the gate, this is what's going to happen. When you click that, you're going to go to a calculator. This is what the calculator looks like. Now, for my team, I ran them once today already. So on Ultra Nightmare, my team uses the 4 main ones that we've talked about, and then I use Ferrokin the Fat as my DPS. Again, the reason I use him is because I don't use him anywhere else in the game, and he brings poison, HP burn, as well as ally attack, which gets a lot of value out of the rest of my team. I've made other videos on my team, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on my team. I'm mostly just trying to teach you guys how to use the speed tuning. So we'll come down here. We have our there it is, Ferrokin the Fat. Had to fight him. All right, so now we have Ferrokin the Fat in the team comp. Now we need to get our speed tune in place. Now right here, you'll see speed aura 24%. If you use the Deacon Armstrong one, you'll need to reduce that. It will auto-populate when you do it, when you get to it through the Deacon Armstrong way. I'm going to set it to void just for the sake of easiness here. But that speed aura will automatically get calculated. So when you go through and you set the speeds that you have, there's a couple things that you're going to do. So first things first, let's take a look at my Demitha. All right, we're going to go to champions. You come in here, we take a look at Demitha. So my Demitha, her speed is 290. Now, you don't just put 290 in the calculator. 290 is already in there, but what kind of sets is she using, and is she using Lore of Steel? So we come to masteries, we look at the masteries. Lore of Steel. So what does Lore of Steel do? Increases the base stat set bonuses of all artifact sets that increase base stats by 15%. This increase is multiplicative, not additive. All right. That means if she's using speed or perception sets, they increase the base stats. You get more increase off of that. Lore of Steel is not essential, but it is very valuable for making an unkillable clan boss team because it helps you hit those really high speeds. You'll notice that while she does have some gear that has a double speed roll and a single speed roll, she only has 2 pieces of gear that are quote unquote speed gear, right? Perception and then obviously the actual speed gear. Each of these provides percentage bonuses to speed. So what you'll come and do is in the calculator, you'll come in here and you'll have to say, okay, so she has 1 speed set and 1 perception set, and Lore of Steel is on. Okay, so her speed is 290. Her true speed is 314.42. What you're looking for on the calculator is that Demitha does her A3 before the clan boss takes a turn. Now, you also want Eris to be first in this particular build. You want Eris to be first because she will remove the stun whenever clan boss does the stun. So you'll see clan boss stuns here. We take no damage because we have block damage up. Eris removes the debuff, and then the rest of the team goes. If Eris gets stunned, the team falls out of sync. All right, so now let's look at Eris's speeds. We go back into champions. We come down to Eris. We look at her stats. So she has 260 speed, and she is in 1 times speed set with, I didn't look. You're going to be going back and forth in this stuff a lot because you're going to forget. Oh, wait, I forgot to check this. All right. And then let's look at masteries. Lore of Steel is right here. So we do have Lore of Steel. So we come back into the calculator. We say we have 260 speed. Okay. We have 1 speed set, and we are in Lore of Steel. Don't touch base speed. This is the default base speed of the character. That's not going to change no matter how much you want it to. All right, so we do see that it does take a little while to get started, but we are in a speed tune. Great news. That's what we want to see. Now, same thing with Fu Shan. We come back in here. We look at Fu Shan. We look at his stats. He is at 189 speed. We do have Lore of Steel again. We go back into the calculator. I said 189 speed. And we had, oh, how many speed sets did we have? See, like I said, you're going to be going back and forth, back and forth. Oh, man, how many speed sets did we have? So we had 1 speed set and 1 perception set, okay? So 1 speed, 1 perception. We had Lore of Steel. And now we have his true speed put in. Last one we have is Seeker. I am going to put them all in just so you can kind of see that they work. And I will point out one thing about Deadwood Jedi Sight. Seeker has no speed gear. And we do not have Lore of Steel. All right. So, Seeker, what was his speed though? Like I said, back and forth. All right. We come up here, speed 183. We come in here, we do 183. No sets, no Lore of Steel. Last guy, Farrakhan the Fat. So for Fat Man, we've got no speed sets and no Lore of Steel. And his speed is 170. All right, Farrakhan the Fat, speed is 170. No Lore of Steel and no speed sets. Now you'll notice as I clicked him, everything changed. With the way that I had the speed tuning done, right away, we actually fall into the tune much faster with the way that I did it. I did that on purpose. I built the speed for Farrakhan the Fat to be a little bit faster than necessary. Like I didn't put him at the minimum speed. I put him like a few up in order to hit this targeted range so that the team syncs up right away and I don't have to wait. Because if I put him down 1 speed, we have to wait a little bit before we get caught into the tune, right? We go through 6 turns where we're vulnerable. We're not going to die in those first 5 turns, but I feel more comfortable just getting into the tune right away. Especially when you're new to speed tuning, it can be very scary when you're testing out your tune and you have to wait until turn 6 to make sure it works. It's really satisfying to know by turn 2 that your Demytha starts blocking immediately and it can keep going. All right, so this is everything. This is how my tune works. Now, there are a few certain things to note about this team. Seeker actually starts with his A1. So when we go in here and we look at my clan boss team, I might not be able to look at them without a key. How long till a key? 251. Yeah, I'll just buy a key. It's fine. All right. We come in here to the team setup. I'm sure I probably could have accessed this another way, but I'm not worried about spending a few gems to be able to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about here. So this is the new unkillable team. This was my old one. You'll see I used to use Mishinaki. I didn't like Mishinaki being at such a slow speed. Now I use Parakin the Fat, and I actually do more damage than I did before. I had to rework my, in fact, well, I had to rework my Fushan in order to make this work. So I took away some damage from my Fushan, but increased his accuracy so he could land the Brimstone, and that made a huge amount of difference. So we come in here. Now, an important thing to note is that I turn off Frightful Claws. For my build, you may want to consider turning off certain abilities for your builds that don't do as much damage and have no impact on the overall effect of the team. I keep Shred on because it does a lot of damage, and it ensures I have a decreased defense buff on at all time. Howl does a ton of damage. We come into Demitha, you'll see that I have this as first priority, this is second priority, and then she does her A1, and then obviously rotates through those as necessary. So you'll see here, I open with Devour on this team, and then I do Tailwind. This is crucial to getting the speed tune perfectly lined up. If you don't do this, the tune is not going to work. Now, I don't know for sure that that's a factor for the speed tune with Deacon Armstrong, but it's important to make sure you pay attention to that kind of stuff. For Farrakhan, I use Beatdown as my priority, Brand of Shame. Farrakhan doesn't have anything that's going to alter the speeds of my characters, so I don't have to worry about anything like that. And then Eris, this is on priority. A couple of other things to remember when you're doing a speed tune is to consider the masteries that you're using. So if we go back to Demitha, for instance, and look at the masteries that I have, I'm avoiding certain ones. Cycle of Magic. 5% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill by 1 turn at the start of every turn. Man, that's awesome, right? I would get a chance that the cooldown of block damage is up more often. But here's the problem. If it comes up too early and she uses it too early because it's on priority, your tune fails. Your speed tune fails. Do not use Cycle of Magic on any characters that would lose their that it would reduce their cooldowns. Okay. I have Cycle of Violence on her. You should not have this. However, 30% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill by 1 turn if the damage inflicted by a skill exceeds 30% of the target's max HP. She is never going to have an A1 hit that will do 30% of clan boss's max HP. So I didn't need to turn this off, but still, you don't want to use anything that's going to alter your cooldowns. Lasting gifts is something that you also want to be careful of. You'll see I'm also using Spirit Haste, so as soon as someone dies, everything gets ruined. Well, someone dies, it gets ruined anyways. War Master, you are going to want to have War Master on all of your DPS unless they have multi-hitters. I think, though, even my Fushan still has War Master. I can't remember why, because he does have a bunch of multi-hitters, but I did go for War Master based on a recommendation, I think probably off of Hell Hades' site. Let's look. Eris is another one where you don't want to have Cycle of Magic because you don't want her cooldown to come out of cycle. The other thing that I want to talk about while we're looking at masteries is Steadfast. Steadfast is a mastery that actually, as far as the game code is concerned, it acts like a buff. The reason that's important is the way Clan Boss targets the stun, they will consider buffs when they're coming in to target. So you want steadfast on characters that you don't want to get stunned, but characters that you do want to get stunned, for example, my Fushan, I don't have steadfast. My Farrakhan, I don't have steadfast. Even Demitha can get stunned. That's totally fine. Um, if I can find her. She does have steadfast. That's because I don't want to rework her masteries. Seeker does not have steadfast. So Seeker, Fushan, and Farrakhan are able to take the stun. I want them to be stunned, so I don't give them steadfast. It just gives them an increased chance to get the stun over Eris, who we do not ever, ever, ever want her to get stunned. Another thing about my team, if we take a look real quick, is that I have another Force Affinity champion. When we go up against Spirit Affinity is going to want to stun a weak affinity. So I need to make sure that I want Fushan to take that target. So if I go up against Spirit Affinity, they should target Fushan. In the other build that I'm recommending for my clan member here, it does say that you need to have a Force DPS champion positioned ahead of Eris in the team order. While since we're talking about team order, let me mention this. Team order goes, this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, this is number 4, this is number 5. I have Eris last because again, team order, all that stuff. So you want to make sure that in this kind of a Z thing, right? Boop, 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 you want to make sure that Eris is behind a Force DPS in order to do a Spirit Affinity. If you can do Spirit Affinity, you'll find out you're fine across the board. Speaking of, let's take a look back at Spirit Affinity. If I go to Spirit Affinity on this calculator with my current speeds, it tells me that I fail. I'm telling you all right now, while it is not a 100%, I actually do have enough speed um, with my build that I have successfully completed Spirit Affinity on many occasions. The calculator is slightly wrong here. I'm thinking it might be a true speed factor because when you increase Eris's speed by just 1, everything works. If I reduce it by 1, nothing works. She is technically um, right there at the right amount of speed to make it work. Um, and so the calculator is slightly wrong here, but I mean, like we're talking such a minor thing, and it's not 100% because there is a chance that she gets stunned by the clan boss. And it's an increased chance because she's the only other negative affinity. So these are all things to think about. Make sure you're looking at the considerations. Make sure you're looking at, like, this is my team. So Eris needs to be greater than 282.9 true speed. 282.53. So she's right there on the border. So I'm guessing there's either kind of something on the minor level that isn't recognized or acknowledged or whatever the case may be, but this does succeed on spirit. But you do want to make sure that when you're looking at your comp that you're going through and looking at, does it still work against force, does it still work against magic, and does it still work against spirit. Void is the easiest, but in some cases the clan may go through and do a whole bunch of damage before you get a chance. Like, look at Nightmare is almost changing affinity already, right, guys? So if you come and it's 10:30 in the morning, Eastern time. So if you logged on and you're like, oh crap, I can't do it. It's Spirit Affinity now. It can really hold you up. So that's kind of everything about speed tuning. That's kind of how to look for speed tuning and everything like that. Um, One of the other drawbacks that you're going to have once you make your unkillable team, the first goal, your first priority when making an unkillable team, hit your speeds. That's all that matters. Yes, I managed to make it work with Eris in a poison set. The reason that she's in the poison set is because of her counterattack. She has a chance to put the weak version of poison on the boss, which adds up some damage. That is a luxury that I am allowed to have, okay? It is not something that your account may be able to do. You you may need to run her in 6 pieces of speed gear just to hit the speeds. Hitting the speeds is priority number 1. Priority number 2 then becomes damage. So, if you look at my blessings, all of my team is using Phantom Touch, except for my legendary. He's using Brimstone, and Demitha, who's using Cruelty. You could use Demitha for this, or you could use Seeker. I could use Farrakhan the Fat as well, but because Farrakhan the Fat is going to be your DPS, I'm sorry, they're not going to be your specific DPS, but this position in any speed tuned clan boss will be a DPS. I would recommend either bringing Brimstone or Phantom Touch just to deal direct damage to the boss and not worry about other things like reducing their armor, which is what Demitha does. Demitha only uses her A1 once per rotation in my speed tune. So if we look here, this is Void Affinity. There's her A1 right there. If we look at Seeker, Seeker uses his A1 twice within the one turn of the clan boss. So Seeker is a great option for Cruelty. If we look at what Cruelty does real quick, in case you don't have it memorized, the Master or the Blessing of Cruelty. Whenever this champion hits an enemy, decreases the defense until the end of the round, occurs once per hit. It says till the end of the round, which means it will do it for the entirety of the fight because clan boss is all one round. So you can do up to 5% on the first value there. That's 5% extra damage that you guys are going to get to do because the boss is out of defense, and it's 1% per hit up to 5%. So it only takes 5 hits to make it happen. It would happen slightly faster within the tune if Seeker does it. However, Seeker hits really, really hard, so I use Phantom Touch just to increase his damage overall, rather than using him to reduce the defense and then gaining no bonus damage for the remainder of the fight. So, however, if you are in a pinch, you do want to have Cruelty on one of your epic champions within your composition. Another great option for that would be your Deacon Armstrong in the other example that I've been talking about. And again, Farrakhan hits hard. That's why, again, I'm using him in Phantom Touch because I want him and Seeker to do damage, where Demitha is not crit capped. She's none of those things. Okay, so we're talking about priorities here. Speed is number 1. Once you have your speed tunes, now next is damage. Now, when you're building your champion for speed, you can use the Hell Hades calculator. I'll make another video on that in the future. I don't think I've already made one. You can use the calculator and tell it, I want you to hit 290 speed, and I want you to hit crit cap, and it will make a suggestion of gear to get you to hit that. So if we look at my Seeker, because and It's not easy to do, guys, and I'll show you what I mean. My Farrakhan is only at 98% crit rate because I just can't. I with my gear, I can't hit this speed target and hit this crit rate and get this level of crit damage. Like the amount of damage I want to squeeze out of my Farrakhan, it's just not possible at the time that I built him with my gear to be 100% crit rate. Now my tune works without him being 100%. So cool, sweet. I'm not it ain't broke. I'm not going to fix it, okay? So now if we look at my seeker, we are crit capped, medium crit damage, nothing crazy. Uh, but we do hit pretty hard. And these are the kinds of things that you're going to need to kind of play around with. So, priority number 1 is speeds. Priority number 2 is damage, which means trying to get that crit cap on anyone that you want to do damage. Your super high speed characters like your Demitha and your Eris, 38% crit rate. I am not going crit rate on her. If we look at my Eris, again, I am not going crit rate on her. She's at 24%. Couple of things to note when you're working with these characters. For your amulet, when you want to get extra damage out of the champion, normally 9 times out of 10, you're going to say, okay, I want a crit damage amulet because that's going to help me do more damage. However, if they're not crit capped, I would just try and increase their base damage because they're not going to get a crit, so that amulet doesn't serve a purpose. So if you look at my Eris, I'm rocking an attack amulet just to get that extra attack so that her non-critting hits still hit somewhat harder than they normally would have. Now, technically speaking, if you're building Demitha with your only intention being that of beating clan boss, you should use an attack amulet to squeeze out that little bit of extra damage. Same thing with the ring. Squeeze out that little bit of extra damage from her. However, I'm not doing that because I do actually use her in other areas of the game. You'll see here she's in a resistance banner that has no bearing on the clan boss. It just had a triple speed roll. And that's 20 extra speed. By the way, you'll notice, guys, I have to hit 290 speed. That's hard to hit. I only use a +1 right here because sometimes when you're trying to hit those target speeds, you only need 1 more extra speed. And if I gave her a +2, well, that piece of gear can never be used on her again. My speed tune is completely ruined, and I have to find another banner that has speed on it. And if I don't have one, I am screwed, and I'm farming Spider. All right. So you don't always you don't always need the highest proc. One thing I recommend is when you're building the calculator, let's say you want her at 290 speed, set the calculator for 280, between 280 to 290 speed, and then make up the difference. See if you can make up the difference with glyphs. All right, so that's my recommendation. You don't need to hit that speed on the first try. You can try and get it with glyphs in the aftermath. So for example, we go to upgrade here and we go to enchant and we have a speed glyph 1 to 5. So if you did 185, yes, you have to roll a 5 on this, which is not guaranteed. But you could hit a 3 on this and then hit a 2 elsewhere on your gear. And there you go. Now you're at 290. So that's kind of the gist of everything. I think I've touched on all the things that you want to be looking for when you're building your clan boss team. If you have any questions about building a clan boss team, please post them in the comments. Please feel free to reach out to me in Discord. I want to say something that Coriax, however you say his name, he had not posted in our Discord his roster until last night. because he just happened to be in chat when we were talking about it. He didn't know that this was an option. If you are a member of Roadblocks Vanguard and you want help with your dungeon teams, your clan boss team, any part of the game you need help, I am here to help you. Zardacious, who is an officer in the clan, is here to help you, as well as other members of the clan. We want you to succeed, so please reach out to us, share your stuff, and we will do the best to our ability to help you come up with a viable option for success in the game. Koryax didn't know that his roster had an unkillable team just chilling. And I didn't know until he shared his roster with me. And once he did that, I was able to identify, oh, hey, look, you've got a Demitha, you've got a Seeker, and you've got a Deacon. Guess what? You have an unkillable team. Boom, done. Right? You may not have this, but we might be able to find you a killable team that uses Ally Protect or Guardian gear, or, we can get you close. So there's a lot of different options. Sometimes it's even a matter of like, well, just doing speed tunes in general. So, for example, if we just look real quickly back at the speed tune calculator, let's say that we weren't dealing with the Demitha here. Let's say that we were dealing with somebody that brought Ally Protect. Jareg. Now, this is not going to be tuned at all, but you could come in here and try and set it up so that Jareg's Ally Protect ability, I don't know which ability of his does Ally Protect, but you want to make sure that it goes off on right before the clan boss takes his turn. So you could come in here and use this calculator. In fact, I'm pretty sure he has calculators for Ally Protectors on his site. I've never bothered to look. I've never needed to. But these are the kinds of things that you can do to make it so that you always have, or you could even do, for example, Valkyrie. So if you're like me, you may just have Valkyrie just hanging out there doing her A2 whenever it's up. If you happen to get a counterattack, great. If the shield's up, great. For me, I would like Valkyrie to have her shield and counterattack every time before the clan boss takes a turn. So I could come in with the team, I could play with my speeds a little bit, and set it up so that Valkyrie takes her turn before the clan boss every single time. She put her on I think you'd probably need her on a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio. It would be something crazy. So it's the A2 that does it. So she starts with the A2 and she gets it again. So 3 turns it would take her to get her A2 again. So it would take some high speeds and some coordination, but ideally, if you wanted to maximize the value of her shield and her counterattack, you could go that route. Same with Ally Protectors. Same with Unkillable. If you had, let's say, for instance, is he Emic going to be in this yet? He is. Check this out. Cool. So we put Emic in there. At those speeds, it still doesn't work for Emic Trunkheart to have his cooldown up all the time. But if you wanted to play with it, you could try and get it to work where Emic has his, does his, what would it be, his A3? Where's he at? Let's go all the way back to the top. Yeah, his A3 does the unkillable buff right there. You want the unkillable buff on the boss before the boss takes his turn every single time. So you could come in here and play with the speeds a little bit and see, is there a scenario where his... No, and there isn't. And that's because of the cooldowns that you're going to need some pretty crazy speeds. You'd have to adjust the whole team. But you could come in here and do this. And who knows, Deadwood may have a viable comp in a couple days, maybe weeks, that use Emic since we're all going to be farming him over the next couple days. So anyways, this video is a much longer video. If you're still watching, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I really want to try and build and grow this channel as much as I can. The best way that you can help me do that is to like and subscribe. If you don't want to, that's fine. I'm not here to pressure anybody into doing so. If you could consider that, I would appreciate it. Also, if you have time to post any comments, those would also help with algorithm things to help promote my content and maybe get a bigger following for the channel, because I think I do a pretty good job of explaining how to use these tools. And you can learn from my mistakes. Thanks for watching. I will see you all in the next video.